All right, so I'm going to start with a really obvious.
Basically 10 or 12 hours a day, and you have all these people from international, domestic teams and people from international as well. So you get all these people in this confined space, and there's usually like at least one outbreak of flu. We call it the bot flu. And we never really figured out who's patient zero, but a lot of people want to get super sick about 10 days into the event, and it sucks. We didn't get sick last week. I don't think we got sick, but then some people get sick after the event. It's bad. But that's my least favorite. I got it. All right, hold on.
So season 2, there were SWAT helicopters flying overhead. That's it.
There was a murder. It was in Los Angeles, right?
Oh, they're all in LA.
Well, yeah. All right. So seasons 3 and 4 were filmed in Long Beach. Seasons 1 and 2 were filmed in LA. So
no, season 1 was San Francisco.
That's true. Okay, fine.
Nothing eventful there.
Jeez. All right. So season 2, there was a murder in the streets of LA, and they wouldn't let us. Nobody in, nobody out. The culprit was on the loose.
Including the audience, couldn't we?
Yeah.
And the audience was bussed in that year because the venue was so tiny that they couldn't park everybody, so they bussed people in. So they closed the gate to the venue. Audience was stuck. Helicopters flying overhead, and we're like, we have killing robots. There's one dude with a gun that knew us.
Which way did he go?
We couldn't even access the food trucks because they were on the other side of the fence.
So my story's not quite as eventful as your stories. But we started, our first season was season 1 of the reboot. So obviously we had all been watching the TV show in the Comedy Central days, which was like early 2000s, I think. So we kind of had our own heroes from the veteran builders. So in season 3, I actually got a chance to help Christian Carlberg program some speed controllers on his robot. He had, I think he's the most winningest BattleBot builder ever. I think he's won like 3 giant nuts. So for him to come up to any of us and ask us for help, I was like a fangirl moment. So that was really exciting for me.
Probably my favorite story is not necessarily one from the pits, but this past season, I was delayed in actually going out to California. And if you've seen the online show, BattleBots Resurrection, you saw that after our first fight, we had a little bit of a struggle and had to kind of rebuild the robot from inside out. So I was still here in Miami. The team was all in California. I get a frantic call at, noon. It's like, hey, we need you to go find motors. Okay, where are they? We don't know. Just go look and find motors. So we have our shop, we have Will's shop. So between the 2 shops, I was able to go find motors. I'm like, okay, how many do we need? However many you can find. We need you to overnight these to us now. And I was like, guys, it's 6 o'clock on Tuesday. And I was like, okay, go to the first FedEx I can find with 6 50-pound motors in a box. And I'm like, hey, I need to get this to California by tomorrow at 10 a.m. And they're like, no, that's not gonna happen. They're like, you can try the FedEx over by the airport. That one, they go straight into the plane. I was like, okay, how far away is that? Half an hour. When did they close? 40 minutes. Okay, no problem. So race over, go to lady, hey, I need this in California tomorrow, 10 a.m. She was like, can't do 10 a.m. Will noon work? That's fine. Just get me there. That was my favorite story, even though not necessarily from the pits.
Timing actually worked out perfect because we had to machine a bunch of the frame to accept those motors. So while we were doing that in California, the motors were on their way. So it's like, as soon as the frame was ready, motors showed up, put it all together.
Yeah, so if you wanted more details on that, BattleBots Resurrection is a thing. It's online. It's Discovery Go. You can check out that episode. It chronicles not his part, but everything else that we were doing in California, because they didn't send a film crew out to him. But yeah, and so you can check that out. It's actually really cool. It's like 10-minute episodes. There's 9 of them, 10 of them, something like that. And they're really fun. They follow various robots as they get destroyed and rebuilt.
But it's really cool because it starts like 24 hours to the next match, and then you watch it a few minutes, like 12 hours to the next match. So you feel like the sense of urgency we had to get that robot ready.
Has anybody actually seen that BattleBots Resurrection? Good for you. You back there? But a lot of people see the show. It was pretty good. So do you feel like the show is like very technical, or do you feel like it was just kind of general? No response. All right, cool. So the show is kind of doesn't go into technical detail, and that's what this BattleBots Resurrection show kind of does. They try to talk more about the actual aspects of fixing the robot and what happened, what broke. How are you fixing for the next match?
Yeah, so for instance with us, it was a Yeti fight. The motor smoked. We determined, oh, these motors really stink. We don't want to use them anymore because we had smoked motors in practice in testing. Literally,
the night before.
Yeah, the night before we shipped the robot. So we already had these motors smoke, and we thought it was a speed controller issue. So we thought we'd be fine. We lose. We're like, we got to swap the motors. The other motors are 2 inches longer, ish. So we had to physically take apart the frame, pull the rails out because the rails, there was physical material preventing us from putting the longer motors in. Machine that out, reassemble, rewire, all those things. So that episode, the show, the BattleBots Resurrection, goes into the details. It follows us and has cool little graphics like, oh, I'm going to cut this little area out, and they do little dotted lines and stuff. And Mike's talking to the camera and stuff. It's cool. It's awesome.
Okay. Too eventful. My favorite moment was when I ate a burger. What do you like best about competing?
BattleBots. No. BattleBots. No, that's the bad stuff.
I just like the camaraderie. Like Sherry said, we all meet for 2 weeks in California. It's crazy. It's long hours and it's insane. But then after we leave there at 10 at night or 11 at night, we go back to the hotel and there's all the builders are hanging out in the bar downstairs, not drinking, just socializing. and mixing drinking. And just hanging out and having a good time. And it's very like-minded people, and we're just having cool discussions about a lot of them are engineers, so people work in different fields, and it's just cool to get involved with people that are just like-minded, similar age, and we can have cool discussions about stuff. And obviously all the shenanigans that go on in the pits, like Nerf gun wars and all silliness. It's just a fun time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, imagine we film for about 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks in a day. So we get not locked up in a warehouse, but essentially we're all in a warehouse with like 300 of the coolest robot builders you've ever met. And everybody's so technical and so awesome, so it's a lot of fun. But one of my favorite parts about this whole experience has been the fact that, like we said, we've been building robots for a decade, and it's been kind of this underground sport. And now we're getting a chance to share it with all of you and all of this new generation of kids that are growing up with BattleBots. And we have kids like David who are starting to build their own robots. So, all the kids are in this room. I hope you get started building robots a lot earlier than we did, and you're going to be way better than us by the time you get to our age. So, yeah. So that I love that part of it now.
I just want to point out that the camaraderie is like a giant dysfunctional family reunion. It's that kind of camaraderie.
Love hate.
Yeah, some of the builders don't get along with each other very well.
We get together once a year and break each other's toys. Okay.
I mean, to that point for the camaraderie, a lot of people often ask, like, oh, well, do things ever get kind of hostile in the pits? Since we are, at the end of the day, at a competition. There are some contentious moments, sure, but I would say overall, everybody's friendly, everybody wants to get along. Everybody really just wants to have a good fight more than anything else. All teams are willing to pool their resources and get someone's robot fixed. If there's like a one-person team or a two-person team and they're just struggling, there's been, a dozen of builders from other teams that come together and just try to help out as much as possible, whether that's just assembly, painting, making parts for the robot, whatever it may be. Everybody just wants to have a good fight, put on a good show, and have fun.
My favorite thing about competing is destroying robots that are better than mine.
That's a real answer.
So a robot called Vegetable or something like that, and it was a salad bowl made out of titanium, and I somehow destroyed it. It's just this team that always makes random stuff, and I destroyed it. So I didn't expect that. Okay. What's your dream matchup?
So in season 1, we got put up against Tombstone, and we broke his bar. I forget this guy, yeah, Alex. And we won. In that moment, we flipped over, so we were stuck upside down, and we lost because we were stuck upside down. So that like sparked we need a self-righting mechanism. So every year since then, we've had a self-righting mechanism. But anyway, I think if I wasn't worried about losing, when you lose, you obviously it counts against your rank or whatever. If I didn't care about that, I would love to fight Tombstone again. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's see that.
That was your first fight. But no, that was your first season though.
First season.
Yeah, so you didn't know what Tombstone. You didn't know about Tombstone's powers.
That's true. We didn't know exactly what we were getting into. We had an idea, but not like now he's like champion of BattleBots.
But didn't you have a self-righting mechanism? Like when you had the weapon, like wasn't that supposed to flip you?
Yeah, exactly. So we didn't have a self-righting mechanism because he's right. The weapon has enough power to flip us back over. But what happened on the last hit was that Tombstone actually jammed our weapon and it wasn't working. So there went that plan. So now we have a separate self-righting mechanism. But it's kind of a long-standing tradition ever since we started doing fighting robots that whenever you break a piece off another robot, the team will sign it to you and kind of give it to you as a sort of trophy. So we haven't won the giant nut, but that's kind of second best for me because we have, a third of Tombstone's bar with like their signatures, so it's pretty good. And we always bring it when we come to exhibits, but the reason it's not here is because we shipped it with our robot in case we get that rematch. We can kind of walk in with the bar as a reminder. So my matchup, again, all the favorite robots we want to fight are robots that we really respect, so it's tough matches. I wouldn't tell the production team this, so they wouldn't match us up against them. But
they ask.
They ask, yeah.
Don't you want to fight?
They
write it down.
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for Bronco. He has a lot of power. It's awesome. We have a really quick self-righting mechanism now, so I think we could take a lot of flips. But it would be trading punches back and forth. Yeah, I agree. So I think that would be awesome, but we'll see. It was actually our very first match on BattleBots ever, and we had no idea who Bronco was.
So Bronco, if you don't know, they competed in the old show on Comedy Central, and they won a bunch of times. Team Inertial Labs, yeah. And they built a bunch of different pneumatic flippers, basically similar to Bronco. And we're like, those guys, they haven't built a robot in 20 years. They don't know what current technology is, whatever. And they beat us. It's so easy in the first time. But last season they really turned it up to level 12. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw or could appreciate what Bronco could do last year. They were literally throwing robots 15 feet in the air, bouncing them off the wall. It was insane. So I don't want to Bronco.
I will touch her.
Or is that the one that threw Tantrum's fist into the...
No, that was Tombstone.
Oh, Tombstone.
Yeah, he hit it so hard it broke it off the robot and shot it across the area.
And after that match, they were actually so afraid to take it out because that panel had all the wiring that they just did the finals with that still in there.
No kidding. Oh, wow.
My matchup would be against Hypershock.
It's a complex. I thought you skipped it.
No. So my matchup, Hypershock was supposed to be your Will from Hypershock. He's actually my roommate. I want to fight him. The last time I saw Will was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. He's never really home because he's working on the robot all the time. So
You guys have never fought, right?
no.
Yeah.
The production wanted us to fight last year, and we're like, but it's 2 of the same robots basically. That's not going to be fun. It's going to be a quick match probably. It's not going to be fun for either of us. We're both going to. Someone's going to get it's not. Someone's going to get wrecked beyond repair. So nobody wanted it.
I would say Mohawk, but they're not competing this year.
Oh, I would say
Mohawk would be interesting, but Hypershock for sure.
I thought of one. It may not be the best one, but it'd be really fun because our robot is more or less explicitly designed for a particular robot. Typically people do that, so tombstone, like you have drums, you have horizontals, you have solid robots, and it's typically like a rock, paper, scissors. So if you have a tombstone, a horizontal is kind of the anti, or wedge is really the anti-everything, but a horizontal typically does well against vertical, or a vertical does well against horizontal weapons and things of that nature. So I would think Gigabyte would be a fun one, only because we are more or less explicitly designed against robots like that, where the shape of our robot and everything is meant to get under something like that, and it'd be interesting to see what the result is. And I'll answer for Hypershock. He wants to fight a pile of scrap because his robot's not big. Oh, one other thing, we like to kind of rag on each other a lot, the whole dysfunctional family thing. So if we take cheap shots at specifically Hypershock or any of the other robots, it's all in jest. We love each other. We, as Chiri said, we try and help each other at every turn. And so, just as fair warning, if we're ragging on Hypershock a little bit, it's because we're sleep deprived helping him finish his robot.
So one thing that's great for this upcoming season is there's a lot of new teams, a lot of new robots, a lot of new teams. So we don't even know like what the match. Obviously, we don't know what the matchups are going to be ahead of time anyway. But normally they want a story. They want like, oh, you fought so and so in 2009 and whatever, like an epic rematch. But like nobody really cares about that, But production kind of wants like an interesting story. But there's so many new robots this season that I don't know who they possibly match people up against. It's just going to be they'll walk away to see what happens. But
Whatever we guess is wrong, so.
yeah.
Wouldn't you guys want to match up against Rotator again and beat your record?
That was such an easy match, I think Rotator would want a rematch with us though. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
I hope he's scared. Who is your favorite BattleBot other than yourself?
One of my favorite robots from this past season, I think Tantrum. You guys know what Tantrum is? So Tantrum is basically got titanium plates on the top of his robot, and he has a motor that pulls those titanium plates down, and he uses that as like a spring, and he has a mechanism inside that I don't even understand. And once he releases it, it sends that energy, and he uses that as a flipper. A what? An attack. Yeah. So it's a flipper, but it's a what? Yes. But it's just a really cool design, and the guy who built it, Aaron Hill, is like crazy. And he did the first robotics for many years, and he just comes up with the craziest stuff. So I'm actually really excited to see what he does for this season. But I really respect the fact that he, and it's not a great. There's a lot of vulnerability with something like that. Doing something for the first time. Definitely, we try to build a robot that's tried and true, almost like vertical spinner with beefy frame, beefy weapon.
And he sends fists into the wall.
And he sends fists into the wall. Yeah. So I really respect someone who's sort of trying to work outside the box and trying to come up with something cool. So I'd say Tantrum. Bronco.
I already said this, but yeah, Bronco. I mean, there's just, like, their robot is so different from all of the other BattleBots, and the fact that they're throwing robots 12 feet in the air, like, I don't know, I can't get over that. That's pretty cool.
I might just throw out Chomp, because if you look at the engineering side of it, from a purely design and engineering standpoint, it's an amazing robot. It has LiDAR, or LED-DAR, it has autonomous functions, it has programming, it has gusseted framework and everything. It's a beautifully designed and machined robot. And yeah.
Good answer. That would be second.
On the total opposite, I would say huge. When I first got there, I see this giant robot with big plastic wheels, and I'm like, nothing's gonna get destroyed. And everybody's like, no, they have smaller versions of huge, and apparently it's won like all sorts of tournaments and won like countless awards. And I'm like, no, there's no way. This thing's plastic. Sure enough, 4-0 later,
Better record than us.
Better record than us. They only had this one issue where they, split in half after a while, but that's fine.
It was time.
I don't know who to pick. And thank you for sharing your experiences with us. Does anybody have any questions? Raise your hand if you have.
Wait, I'll bring the mic to you. So if you didn't get some questions, go ahead.
How many robots do you guys have to build?
Like for BattleBots, like for one competition? Okay. So the first season we only had one robot, and we've been making more spares since then. Last year we had 2 full robots, although the second one wasn't assembled, it was in parts. That was not enough robots. Like after fighting Minotaur, had we won and had to keep going, we would have started running into problems and having to start welding pieces together and trying to make it work. So this year we have 1 built robot and 2 full robots in parts. So hopefully that's enough.
How many chances do you think you can actually hit a robot before it can deal any main bad hits to your robot?
Sure.
Yes.
If we hit Tombstone from the back. Yeah. On a more serious note, yeah, it's kind of like you could take the hypershock approach and try and make your robot go 40 miles per hour and get across the arena before the other robot starts. That hasn't quite worked out well for him, so we learned from his mistake, and we actually went with the design of let's just take the hit and survive it versus let's try and get there first. Did that answer? Anybody have it?
If you get the rematch against Bronco, how would you defend against it since its flipper can get underneath you?
Can it?
I said Bronco, I'm regretting it already. So the front of our robot is designed this year to be really, really low. So we didn't focus on trying to get under other robots. We focused on not letting other robots get under us, if that makes sense. So Mike's the driver. So the strategy usually is to use the front of the robot to block him. And I mean, Bronco's going to get you at least once. It's Bronco. So at that point, our self-righting mechanism is really strong. It's just try to flip back over as quickly as possible. And Bronco, you'll know, I don't know if you can tell on TV, but it's actually really big. I'd say it's at least twice the size of our robot. So because he's so big, that means it still has to weigh the same as our robot. So he's kind of armoring a lot of air. So all of his armor has to be thinner because it's bigger. So I think if we could place a hit right, it could be good for us. But like I said, we're going to spend a lot of time in the air either way.
For reference, I think Bronco's about the size of this table back here, lengthwise.
Yeah. So when we fought Bronco the first time, we had these like hinged wedge things on the front that were intended to get under other robots and like pop them up feed them into the weapon, but it actually stopped us from being able to get a good hit on Bronco. And those guys are pretty smart, so they had this like super floppy titanium armor on the side, which literally just pushed in when we tried to hit it. So we weren't able to really, we had a few opportunities to see a decent hit on Bronco the first time we fought them, but we weren't able to really connect. So like Andrea said, the weapon is like super low to the ground this time, and the frame is really far back, so we shouldn't have any issues hitting people this year, hopefully, maybe.
What robot are you worried about facing that if you had to face? Like what robot are you good that you'd be like seriously worried if you had to face it?
All of them. Bronco's a good answer. It's a good answer.
Any other questions?
I was going to go with Salt Blades, but
Solid waste.
which we almost fought last year actually. We were scheduled to fight Solid Blaze, and they swapped some fights around, so we ended up fighting Blacksmith.
I'm going to say Bite Force because he won last season pretty dominantly, and he's kind of a very similar design to ours. So if you saw season 1, Bite Force was actually like a grabber lifter thing, and then he came back as a vertical spinner. So, like somebody was saying it's kind of a game of rock, paper, scissors, where certain types of robots kind of have a natural advantage over certain other types of robots. And it doesn't mean they win every time, but it's just kind of the odds are in their favor a little bit, assuming everything else goes right. So yeah, my answer would be Bite Force.
What's the average cost of a bot?
So,
Finance, answer the question.
the cheapest, the cheapest robot that I've heard of is probably
3,000.
Is it 3,000? I was gonna say it was.
Sharkobrian is, yeah, he said $3,000.
It was made of propane tanks and a bunch of spare scrap parts that he found. $3,000. That's way, way low. Most robots probably hover 10 to 15 range, I would say. That's kind of like lower end, lower tier robots.
I mean, and that's just the robot cost.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a bunch of costs in shipping the robot out there, plus flights for everybody. You know, there's all this ancillary cost with just competing that, not even talking about robot costs. Some robots are like 50 grand.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ringmaster, I believe I had heard was 50 plus grand. But if you looked at the machining that he did, you'd understand why. He had a video of it, and it was just, it's ridiculous how that was machined.
Now, these sound like really big numbers. This is not money that we're paying out of our own pocket. If you notice that anytime you see us pushing our sponsors a lot is because we really could not build the robots without them. Like, I know that sounds like a cliche thing to say, but they have to believe in us and trust us with their resources, whether it's product or money. Before there even is a robot, before there's a design, we tell them like, hey, we want to build a robot kind of like this. You want to help us build it? And they have to agree before it exists. So it's not like somebody's helping us once they see that we made it to the top 16. These companies sign up 6 months in advance to help us. Hopefully we'll get far enough to be able to promote them, but they're taking a chance on us. So that's why we promote our sponsors so much, because they're really taking a risk and they're making the show happen.
Who's the sponsor this year?
So we have 6 awesome sponsors this year. The first one is Mastercam, which if you guys do any sort of engineering, you probably know them. They're a CAD software company. Zimmer Biomet's a company that I work for, which is awesome to have like your employer support your hobby, because it does cut into work time sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. Do any of you do Vex Robotics? Yeah, so Vex sponsors us. That's actually my favorite sponsor story, because they approached us right after we lost against Tombstone. And so it's like the one sponsor we got because we did such a good job at losing. And they were so impressed with our loss that they decided to sponsor us. Yeah, the president of the company came up to show us like the cell phone photo he had taken from the audience. So that was pretty exciting. And then we have Kalamazoo Waterjet and SMT do a lot of our machining. And Maxam Batteries, which you might know them if you do any RC car racing, they provide all our batteries.
Any more questions?
Any more questions?
Ask them all. Sounds like you guys all had some early losses, which I'm sure were not easy, but how did you get through that and really power through to do what you're doing today?
Like last
Yeah.
season? Talking about last season?
Just even in the high school stories in college.
I'm
Lots
probably
of losses.
best prepared to answer this,
I'll take that.
because I'm hard-headed and I just kept doing it.
No, really. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a good answer to that. But no, so the Bots IQ events that Paul talked about, those were double elimination. So if you lose once, you have a second chance. Hopefully you lost for something that wasn't like a mechanical failure or whatever, and you can get the row back together and you get to work through the losers bracket. But you just have to persevere, and it's really just take it as like a personal challenge to, okay, I'm going to improve the robot for next year and come back, bigger and better. And I think we tend to keep like a very similar design. Like a lot of people are doing like crazy design iterations year after year, and I think we have a really good design, and I like personally build the challenge of building something that looks really cool and works, as opposed to just building like a box with a weapon. So that's part of my personal challenge when we build Witch Doctor is, to make it look cool and be aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, for me, just to elaborate, I am hard-headed and want to just keep doing it, banging my head against the wall. But as Mike said, it's part of the design challenge. It's fun. I mean, if you have fun at it, for me at least, even if I'm losing, winning's not everything. I'm having fun. I'm hanging out with the family at the competitions, and that kind of drew me back in year after year to try and make the design better, try and hammer out all the details, improve as a designer and engineer and whatnot.
Just wait. Just saying, robots don't fall from the sky.
It would hurt a lot if they did.
So how much of your personal time do you guys spend on these things throughout the year, before the tournament, during the tournament, while you're getting ready? How does that work logistically, since you guys are all spread out? Like you said?
Literally all of it. All of it.
We still have to go to work, so not all of it.
Well, it's personal. Is it
Oh, personal time.
Yeah, personal time.
Oh yeah, I meant like how much time does that? Yeah.
So we would leave work and go to the shop till 1 or 2 in the morning. It depends on when in the build season we are. They don't really announce the show until they didn't announce it until like last month, I think, right? Something officially, but they unofficially tell us like, yeah, we're gonna do it and the contract signed and whatever. We knew, I think, in December or January that it was gonna happen-ish, maybe happen. Obviously anything can happen, and they say it's gonna happen, but until the contract's signed and really till you're there actually competing, it might fall through. They can cancel at any time.
A couple hours. I mean, a couple weekends towards the end of the build that are just completely dedicated. The entire weekend is just at the shop working, and probably overall 100 hours each plus a week.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge sacrifice of our personal time. We're on a TV schedule, so when they really say go, which is when we really want to start spending money because we don't want to spend anything until we're absolutely sure the show is happening, it's about 6 weeks, which is not enough time to build what we're building, so we try to have it designed by that point. But yeah, I mean, like, I miss my mom's birthday, we miss everything, because otherwise it's not going to get done. And once we commit to competing, like, if we tell you which doctor's coming and we don't show up, you're all going to be disappointed. Or if we show up with something that's not good. So there's definitely a lot of pressure to make it happen.
Also, when they're away and they're in BattleBots, I have to go 3 months without building a robot.
If you did win a season, would you use the same strategies or try to use new ones?
That's a very good question.
Well, if you win with a certain strategy, people are going to then try to build against that strategy. I guess it's kind of the bite force situation where, Tombstone situation where Tombstone won, everybody's like, well, gotta defend against Tombstone now. So all the robots became beefier up at the front, ready to take a hit, pretty much. Then Bite Force wins, same thing. Everybody just kind of adapts, so you have to adapt as well.
There's so much luck involved in, like Bite Force season 2. He didn't win. I'm saying Bite Force didn't win season 2.
With almost the same robot.
But the exact same robot he had in season 3. So it's just a lot of luck, and you get matched up against, and this is a single elimination tournament. So if you lose, you're out. You could have some weird thing happen and you lose, and then you're done. You could have a winning robot. I think a lot of teams have winning robots, but there's just so much stuff at play.
So not quite relevant to that, but a quick story there pertaining to luck. We've actually seen one of the more interesting stories that I witnessed was Overhaul lost one of his fights last year, the year before. I think it was the year before. Long and short of it is they had a set screw get jammed in the chain for one half of their drive train. So they could only pivot by the end of the match. So they got counted out, they lost the match. After the fact, they went and they opened up the robot and they see, hey, look, there's a set screw, which is a short little screw that doesn't have a head on it, jammed in physically inside the chain between the chain and the sprocket, preventing the chain from going around. Akin to sticking a stick in the spokes of a wheel. It's just not going to spin. It wasn't Overhaul's set screw. It didn't belong to the robot they were fighting against. It was in the arena from a prior fight, belonged to a different robot, somehow ended up in their chain against their sprocket during their fight. So that's the kind of luck. When we say there's luck in anything, kind of our mantra is once you close the door and lock the doors, anything can happen. You never know exactly what can happen. To the same effect, after our Minotaur fight, we had a bolt stuck in the hole in the back of our robot that was jammed in there in such a way that it took quite a bit of finagling to get it out of the hole, and I don't think it belonged to us or Minotaur.
We still don't know whose bolt it was.
They had to get, it's kind of sad to say this, they had to get rid of Shaman, and they had to build a new robot without Shaman, and it's kind of sad, because he's important. He shoots green fire.
But he was horrible luck.
Any more questions?
Is Shaman going to return at some time?
Shaman's spirit is with us always.
Shaman's spirit is returning this year. And you will see what that means once you watch the show, which airs June 7th, by the way. It's just announced this week. So. June 7th, yeah. So, really quick, I think you have a BattleBot in that box. Do you want to take it out?
But it's partly destroyed.
Awesome.
Destroyed Orlando last year.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Well, vertical spinner. I like it already.
It was inspired and please don't get offended, but I inspired Minotaur.
No, the Minotaur team is really awesome. And right behind you, I see that you have a Witch Doctor toy in your hand. That's pretty cool.
Any other questions?
How much feedback do you get from industry, military, universities, and do you share your design ideas?
We did get to do a presentation at the Kennedy Space Center on designing for redundancy. But we don't really, I don't think we've ever been approached by anybody like that to give us any feedback. We get a lot of feedback from fans on why we should guard our wheels.
Negative.
But no, we've never really had the opportunity to have those kind of conversations.
You look like you got some feedback.
BattleBots, is that the only battle that you guys do, or do you do other things during the year? Other BattleBots and...
So all the competitions that David talked about for the smaller robots, those are not open only to kids. We competed them too. People of all ages compete. There's no like collegiate distinction at that level. So I have a 1-pound robot called Alexander Hammerton. That's a hammer robot. And I have a 3-pound robot called Trilobiter.
I have a poop emoji robot. I built it originally, then Paul took it over, and he went to Canada and competed. And did reasonably well. Reasonably well.
It's
I
a
think
full-body spinner as a poop emoji should be.
it's actually pretty competitive, kind of.
Eggplant emoji, also following the emoji theme. Horizontal bar spinner, kind of like a tombstone. That I have competed and Paul has competed as well.
Yeah, we've built a lot of robots over the years, but the point is that there's a lot of competitions around. Are you from Miami?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll probably try to do one after we get back from BattleBots, a month after, maybe 2 months after. There's an event, obviously Orlando Maker Faire has a huge event. There's tons and tons of robots there. There's literally events all over the country. We used to fly to North Carolina to compete. I think Paul still does. He went to Canada to compete, like I said. Philly. Pennsylvania. Yeah. We say Philly because people know where it is.
You guys should go if you're interested to our booth, because we have a lot of information there. And it's always good to have new builders.
What he said.
There's a lot of interesting.
It's that way.
Okay, so because these guys are also going to be power racing shortly, okay? A lot of people want to take pictures with you guys. So if we can, I'm going to try to cut it here now, so you can go out to step and repeat and take pictures with all these folks, right? But if you want to see the robot is here, and they have a booth that Paul has been behind pretty much over there. It's basically, if you walk back out, it's in the main corridor. I think it's 45, right? Yes. And it's there, so you can take a picture with the actual robot, which is pretty amazing. You can see how big and really how heavy it is. They have some parts that you pick up. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it off here. They're going to walk outside, and it's a front and step and repeat, and you guys can take lots of pictures of the whole team, right? Is everybody happy? Yeah.